Hey everyone. In the last video I showed you how to make a fairly simple pauldron design. Again, the format for this video is a little different than my previous tutorials. I am still showing you all the steps on how to make it, but instead of narrating the individual steps, I'm going to continue the conversation we started about creativity being dead. Please feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you have not seen the previous video, make sure to click the link in the description to watch that video first, because otherwise this video is not going to make very much sense to you. I won't be making any actual armor in this video. Instead, I'll be showing you the process for creating the decorations I have planned for the pauldron. This drawing is done in charcoal, but the final result will be done in metal and attached to the armor along with other decorations. Before I go into the meaning behind this decoration, let's return to the discussion about creativity. I think the vast majority of you agreed with most of what I said, but when I said the words, "creativity is dead," a lot of you objected. I don't know the official count, but I would say that about 25% of you thought that I was wrong about this. You offered your rebuttals, and I have to say I wasn't really swayed by them. A lot of the comments defending the other side of the argument reference things like 80s or 90s music and movies to make the point, which really just drives home my point. And let's talk for a moment about creativity and originality. Being original isn't necessarily creative, and being creative isn't necessarily original. I can be original by painting a gray dot on a blank canvas, but that's not creative. I can be creative by painting a portrait of a famous historical figure, but this is not original. Too often we substitute the meanings of these two words for each other, and I think that was part of the issue some of you were having with what I said in the last video. Terrible music lacking creativity can still be original, but that does not mean it's inspired. Many of you have used my templates to copy my designs to create your own armor. The armor you create, assuming you didn't alter the template, is not original, but you did in fact create the armor. Create being the root of the word creative. I find it a bit ironic that ever since the smartphone came out, the only other major inventions have been more powerful smartphones. I think we can all agree this is something to worry about. I think that the problem is what I said was abrupt and harsh, and some of you heard the sentence "creativity is dead" and missed the rest of what I was saying. It's my fault for not clarifying, however I was intentionally being dramatic to make my point. It's not that there are not creative forces at work in our world. There are genuinely inspired pockets of brilliance in all categories. One example that comes to mind is the band 21 Pilots. They're not really my style, but I do like a few songs. But I can plainly see that they are new and fresh and creative and stand alone in their talent. There's no other band like them. Others of you basically said, old people just don't understand new music. A throwback to the Beatles era, where these young punk kids from England shook up the entire world with their crazy rock music. I hate the Beatles. I hate them as much as I hate mumble rap. Well, almost as much. It's got nothing to do with how old you are or when the music came out. What I am talking about has everything to do with the effort put into the passion of your craft. These days, that passion simply is not there. Am I saying the Beatles were uninspired? No, that music just isn't for me. Is mumble rap uninspired? It's incoherent nonsense, and even the fans know it. Enough about music. The main point I was making is that children these days, and even those who are currently young adults, are not inspired to do creative things. This is not to say there are not creative things going on around us, but kids will pick up an iPad over a drawing pad 99% of the time. They don't want to create, they want to watch. That is what I mean when I say creativity is dead. And this is starting to manifest itself in the culture. This is why our TV shows and movies have characters without motives or depth. This is why modern art museums are full of paintings of squiggles instead of portraits. It's not about getting with the times or getting it in general. It's about the abandonment of commitment to craft. Speaking of squiggles, I assume by now you're wondering what in the world I'm drawing here. As I mentioned in the last video, I wanted to have a theme for this armor, and that theme is inspiration itself. I decided to go with a muse, which is a figure meant to represent inspiration in Greek mythology. It turns out there are 9 muses, each responsible for inspiring certain things in people. These things are epic poetry, history, love poetry, music, tragedy, hymns, dance, comedy, and astronomy. Amazingly, the ancient Greeks left out any sort of handcrafting for their muses to represent. So, this is the 10th Muse, Ada, spelled A-E-D-A, named after the mother of the protagonist in my book series. Her domain is handicraft, and her emblems are the hammer and anvil, and with them she shapes the world. If you're interested in learning how to draw like this, I actually have a very in-depth tutorial on how I came up with this method and how to do it. It's very much like the Bob Ross wet on wet painting method, although for charcoal specifically. So make sure to check that video out as well. It's linked in the video description below. If you would like art prints or posters of this picture, the link for this will be in the description below as well. It will be a great challenge for me to translate this into steel and attach it to the shoulder armor. In fact, at this point, I'm really not even sure yet exactly how I'm going to go about it. Make sure to see part 3 in this series to see how I do it. See you next time, guys.